Welcome to NovoEDTalks, where we reveal real-world strategies and expert insights from learning and development professionals. In every episode, we chat with practitioners, course designers, learning strategists, and business leads. We hear about their experiences in the learning industry and predictions for the profession and the trends that they're seeing. But before we get started, a little bit about NovoEd. Founded at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab in 2012, NovoEd is a people-centric, capability-building platform that combines social and collaborative learning to drive performance readiness at scale. Through cohort-based experiences centered around human interaction, NovoEd taps into collective wisdom, placing each learner at the center of perspective, application, and expertise. Large enterprises such as 3M, GE, Marriott International, and Nestle partner with NovoEd to accelerate their critical initiatives, reconnect teams, and achieve rapid alignment through learning that is felt, experienced, and swiftly transformed into impact. Now, let's meet our guest for today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast, a space for training trailblazers to get real. My name is Melissa Fisk. I'm the producer of the NovoEDTalks podcast, and today I am joined by Eddie Brasher, who is a learning and development manager for Starbucks. Eddie is a dynamic learning and development leader with over 15 years of experience driving talent strategies at the enterprise level. Currently, as the L&D manager at Starbucks, he specializes in performance coaching, leadership development, and designing transformative learning experiences that align with business goals. Eddie is the current president of the Association for Talent Development Memphis chapter, yay ATD, where he champions the advancement of the L&D profession and fosters a thriving community of practice. Known for his ability to elevate both people and process, he blends practical wisdom with continuous energy. As a standout stimulator advisor, we're going to have to get more into that, Eddie. And he brings emotional intelligence, strategic insight, and a deep commitment to helping individuals and organizations thrive. He is also a passionate mentor, DEI advocate, and lifelong learner who believes in the power of education to shape cultures and unlock human potential. Eddie, that is awesome. It is such a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you, and welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melissa.
All right. Well, I know I gave quite a bit of your background right there, but why don't you start by just introducing yourself a little bit more, talking about your role in your company?
Yeah. So my name is Eddie Brasher. I serve as one of the learning development managers within our finance organization at Starbucks. I get to sit on the intersection of people, performance, and possibility, supporting the development of our financial professionals as we involve ourselves into a more tech-enabled future. So being here at Starbucks also means that I get to start all of my meetings with wonderful coffee, and even better conversations.
I was gonna ask, so thank you for getting that out there. I was gonna be like, tell me about the coffee perks. Eddie, why don't you talk a little bit about who are your learners and what you oversee and what their challenges that they face are?
Yeah. So my primary learners are our financial planners and our analysts, the folks who are responsible for forecasting and analyzing the financial heartbeat of the business. The need for my role really emerged from our finance organization diving headfirst into a digital transformation with those new tools that provided opportunities to employ AI and machine learning. And then we wanted to make sure that we ensured that our people were equipped with the right technical skills, but then also with the confidence to really thrive in this new environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say some of the biggest workforce development challenges are in this environment and how do you approach them?
Yeah, I would say, there's no uh, stopping the L&D train. There's lots of different needs that are out there, and they're multiplying every day. So I support not only our financial transformation within our finance organization, but just our broader finance org as well. So you've got your accounting professionals that are part of that organization. And then we also have several employee resource groups across Starbucks, and I support those as well with some of our learning initiatives. So I would say one of the biggest challenges is really prioritizing, what are the needs that we need to tackle today, right now. But then also there's an opportunity here for us to really think intentionally about developing and anchoring our professional and personal development initiatives within our Starbucks People First philosophy. So whether that's building up our digital skills or strengthening our leadership pipelines or supporting our inclusive growth, we approach every initiative really with that same lens. How does this really help our people, our partners move forward? How do we help them to grow and lead in real meaningful ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's a lot to be balancing at any given time. Along those lines, as kind of too, the skills sets needed for success continue to shift, new technologies, new developments. What strategies does your team use to kind of ensure the workforce remains adaptable and prepared, and to make sure that you all feel that you're prioritizing the right kind of L&D programs?
Yeah. So I would say, we start with the end in mind. What does high performance look like in our future state? From there, we work backwards, mapping out the capabilities needed to compare them to where our teams are today, and then where we want to be. It's a mix of diagnostic and dialogue, right? We're assessing what those needs are and then utilizing the tools like skills assessments, evaluations, observations, all of those wonderful things to really gain an insight on where people are operating, but then also investing the time one-on-one with conversations, team sessions to really surface what might those gaps be and where might we have those gaps within our data. So what else can our people tell us about what's happening and where their needs are? This really helps us to build out those capability roadmaps and then personalize those and prioritize those based to align with our business needs, our unique business needs. And because we're always evolving alongside our changing tech stack, like I mentioned earlier, our digital transformation, we want to make sure that our learning and development initiatives align closely with our adoption milestones, change management initiatives as well, just to make sure that everyone has what they need when they need it the most. So I would say, in short, we don't just assess those gaps, we design those bridges and we make sure that they're built to carry us into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any kind of, this can be a tricky question sometimes, but do you have any kind of core KPIs that you use to measure the effectiveness of your programs?
Yeah, I would say, not necessarily core KPIs, but we utilize a lot of measurement and evaluation in all of our programs. So when we start the assessment phase, we're also thinking about how are we going to evaluate the success of this particular program, this particular course, whatever it is that our output is. So we rely heavily on our qualitative data, stories, feedback, manager insights, because in the world of upskilling and behavior change, that really speaks louder than our quiz scores and some of those KPIs. So, for example, one of our core programs, we launched a midpoint evaluation where we collected some data from both our participants and their managers. That feedback really helped to shape how we adjusted the second half of that program and what that success and that implementation looked like as well. At the end of that program, we circled back with another evaluation that really focused on the application. Did the learning stick? Did it translate into action? Those are the real KPIs that we begin to measure. What's the behavioral change effort there? What does that look like? And does it align with our business needs?
Yeah, that's awesome. And definitely can be a tricky thing to do. You want to have like those metrics, but then you also need like the anecdotal conversations to kind of really bring to light the full picture there. You mentioned kind of an example of a case study there, but do you want to go more into that, or do you have another example of a case study of an L&D initiative that's really kind of moved the organization in a positive way?
Yeah, I'll share another one. So as I mentioned earlier, I support some of our employee resource groups, and one of our particular resource groups is has the vision of empowering the next wave of leaders. So this particular ERG is responsible for several mentoring programs across the enterprise, targeting diverse populations and career stages. And these programs have been hugely a success, not only because they meet a clear demand for our employees who are asking for mentors, but because they also are backed by our leaders across the business. So that visibility and advocacy really gives the program some real weight. And the impact of these mentoring programs through our ERGs, we've seen a lot of employees grow in their confidence, their ability to build cross-functional networks, and really gain access to opportunities that they may not have had otherwise. And the ripple effect of this is on engagement, skill development, and being able to retain some of our top talent as well. It's been a real textbook win for both our people and our performance.
That's awesome. I love to hear like about a good mentoring program just because I think they're so powerful, and we're really starting to see more organizations like focus on that and see the positive impact, overall in the organization. So that's awesome that you have that example. Um, what role does technology play in your programs, and how do you leverage tools and platforms, to enhance learning and mentoring experiences?
Yeah, I would say, technology is the great enabler. Within our finance tech stack, it's really critical part of how we work, and we're intentional about really integrating learning into the flow of that work. We also use a lot of platforms that allow us to create on-demand learning, those collaborative mentoring spaces as well, and real-time performance support. So whether it's guided walkthroughs or discussion boards or skill-specific playlists, or whatever the goal may be to make learning really accessible, contextual, and actionable as well. So we utilize a lot of different technology applications to support our learning and development initiatives from end to end.
That's awesome. Um, Kind of switching gears here and talking about the industry in general. As learning and development and mentoring programs have rapidly evolved over the past 5 years, what are some key takeaways that you've seen?
Yeah, it has rapidly changed. I mean, every industry I think has been impacted over the last 5 years, not only just coming out of COVID but also thinking about how the world works from everything being hybrid to now, workforces coming back into the office, and now even the advent and implementation of AI. A lot of things have changed. So one of the biggest shifts that I've seen is the barrier to entry into instructional design has really dropped, and it's dropped fast. So, for myself, I got into learning and development. From facilitating off-the-shelf content. But a lot of our professionals today are being asked to not only deliver those learning, but also being able to design and develop that learning content as well. So that means that the skill sets has broadened, and the expectations have definitely leveled up. And so I would also say, with the advent of AI entering the mix of learning operations, there's a real need for foundational knowledge within instructional design principles. So the tools may be getting smarter, but if we don't really root that content development into sound design theory, we risk trading that speed for substance. So, AI can really help us to develop and to write those things out, but only a human can really make it matter.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Like I think AI, sure surface layer like can speed things up, but like it's going to be very important that we make sure that we go deeper with like conceptual
Absolutely.
things with folks than we've gone before. So I think it'll
Absolutely.
be interesting to see that shift as we like focus on how do we get like not how to do this from a technical aspect quicker so much, but how do you go like real, like deeper conceptually into it? So I love that. Um, Great takeaway. Great takeaway. On the flip side, how is your team leveraging technology to kind of enhance employee experiences and prepare for the next 5 years?
Yeah, so our to tech is really centered around enablement, giving our employees what they need when they need it without any friction, whether it's AI-driven recommendations, digital coaching tools, or real-time performance support. Embedded in some of those platforms, we're really trying to think about how do we design learning within the flow of work. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is we're also trying to keep an eye on scalability. How our organization evolves over time. How can we make sure that our systems are also evolving and adapting as we need those things to do so to help us to remain not only just profitable, but then also helping our employees' performance as they're going along as well. So that means really leaning into the data to personalize those learning outputs, using automation to reduce the admin load, really exploring immersive tools that allow us to support some of our learning and development initiatives as well. So that's some of the things that we're looking for. And one of the things as well is just thinking about learning operations. How do we utilize the new technology that's out there now to kind of speed up some of those processes? So an example of that, we utilize a lot of Articulate, and Articulate has really equipped some of their tools, their authoring tools, with some of the AI capabilities as well. So we're thinking about how do we utilize that to make sure, one, it's developed soundly with instructional design principles, but then also how do we make sure that we're utilizing those in an ethical way to help us to increase our output as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I like that you mentioned an ethical way too, because that's obviously going to be, I think, very
Absolutely.
important for the next few years. Eddie, to close on a positive note, what's the most important lesson that you've learned as a leader that you would pass on to someone just starting out on their journey?
Yeah. So, if there's one piece of advice that I always like to share with folks new to L&D or they're curious about getting into the field, it's developing your skill set within project management.
Mm,
Great learning ideas are everywhere, but being able to bring those things to life on time, within scope, with impact, that's really where the magic really happens. And so, whether you're a designer, you're a facilitator, you're a strategist, your ability to really kick those projects off in the right way and guide them across the finish line is really what separates good from great. So that was one of the things that I wish I would have known starting out as a L&D professional is how do you manage a project? How do you really bring those things to life? And how do you make sure that you're able to implement that with evaluation plans and metrics to really sustain that for the future?
That's awesome. What a good one. And that has actually never come up before, but as someone who is a very detail-oriented, organized person, I love that one that you
Yeah,
shared that. Awesome. All right. Well, Eddie, thank you so much for joining us today on the NovoEd Talks podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Melissa.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of NovoEd Talks.